Good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. We are still waiting for, I think, one or two of our panelists who are scrambling out of class and getting to their virtual studio in their room or in an empty classroom. So we'll have a couple more joining us. I'm Jamie Fennell, Director of Admission here at Groton School. Again, thrilled you could join us for this segment of our virtual open house today. We're going to have 5 students in the senior class who are going to speak with you about their experiences with on the receiving end of leadership when they were younger and now on the delivery end. First, though, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Kelly Walsh, in the admission office, who's going to introduce some of these panelists to you. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Fennell. My name is Kelly Walsh. I'm an Assistant Director of Admission here at Groton. Thrilled to have so many folks with us here this morning in Groton, Massachusetts, but realizing it could be any time where you are here.
Kelly, you're frozen on my screen. I don't know if anyone else is seeing that.
Yeah, but I think Kelly was just expressing lots of gratitude for all the folks.
Indeed. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you may be. Kelly, are you back live now?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, okay. You froze up about halfway through your delivery, but I think Chika and I said what you probably were saying. So.
Yeah, sorry about that, folks. But I'm going to hand it over to Huck, who is going to lead our student introductions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ms. Walsh and Mr. Fennell, for having us. And yet again, another big welcome from all the students here at Groton. My name is Huck Jameson. I am a 6th form student here at Groton. I came in as a new 10th grader or 4th former, as we call it. Some activities I'm enlisted in. I'm a varsity football captain. I'm an editor-in-chief of the yearbook. I run weekends here on campus, and I play basketball and lacrosse in the fall and winter, or in the winter and spring, sorry. So I'm really excited for you guys to, learn a little bit more about Groton. And Callie, do you want to take away and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Callie Messina. I'm from Auburn, Massachusetts. I came to Groton when I was in 2nd form, which is 8th grade. So this is my 5th year on campus. And I play soccer, basketball, and lacrosse, and I'm a diversity and inclusion member.
I can go. Hi, I'm Amelia Lee. I came in as a 2nd former, and home for me is Beijing, but I currently live in New York City. And I play tennis, squash, and volleyball right now. And I edit for the school newspaper and the school magazine. Yeah, that's just some of the things that I do.
Awesome. Well, we should. Should we wait on the other two, or should we just get started on?
I think go ahead. I'm going to try to reach out to them and see if they're having trouble getting on. But yeah, go ahead.
Sweet. So what we were going to touch upon today is kind of our circle of leadership here at Groton. So we're going to kind of touch upon how we came in, things that were daunting to us and the leaders we saw, and now how we're in leadership roles ourselves in our 6th form year. So for me personally, I've always been a big athlete, and that's something that I enjoy to do and I'm passionate about. And so coming to Groton was a little bit daunting because I was coming from a school where as a 9th grader, you were like the top of your, like you were the oldest, you were the top of the class. So used to starting in every regard, being a captain, being in leadership roles. And so for me to come into a school where I had older kids, like kids that were older than me, was a bit new of a culture shock for me. But it was wonderful getting to learn a lot of leadership skills from captains of my football teams and basketball teams. And then eventually it even led me to pick up lacrosse, which I've never played before, in the spring of my junior year, which was a lot of fun. And a lot of that was attributed to the captains, because some of them weren't the most outspoken guys in the world. We had one who was a really big, was big on the motivational speeches and halftime and pregame things. But then the other 2 were much more mellow, and it was encouraging to see them kind of pick me out a little bit and make sure that they had my back and they showed leadership in all sorts of different ways. So through my athletic career, I really got the opportunity to see a bunch of different leadership styles. And I think being thrust into a position of being elected by my fellow teammates to be a captain this year for football, I've kind of come to the realization that I want to collaborate a lot of those different leadership styles that I've learned from kids in years past and make it my own. So I'm looking forward to that. We have our first game in just a couple of hours, so I'm ready to kind of hopefully hone those leadership skills in for the first time. And yeah, I'm really thankful for the guys that came before me, and hopefully I can pay it forward in the sense that I maybe spark a fourth former, third former, second former into the same wide-eyed kid I was just 2 years ago. Callie, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, so like Huck, I'm a big athlete. I'm the captain of the soccer and basketball teams. And I think the biggest thing about Groton sports, at least for me, and the most impactful thing is that when you come in as a younger kid or a lower schooler, you immediately can make an impact on the team, no matter how old you are. And it's really fun, but can also be really scary. So in second form, I started on the soccer team, and I was completely new to campus. It was in the fall, and there was one of the captains that was just so great. He helped me through everything. We were forwards together, so she would help me, encourage me, help me get better. She was really good at soccer as well. And I just remember on prize day, she went up, she hugged me in the hug line and said, "Callie, it's gonna go by so quickly." And now I'm captain of the team, and her sister is on the team with me, and it just really feels like it all is coming together. Yeah, and soccer is not my main sport, so also it's fun to be leading a team that is not your main sport, and so different than the basketball team. Yeah.
Should I go, or should Wally and Yipsir introduce themselves maybe?
Yes, please. If Wally and Yipsira could introduce themselves to our guests, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Sure, yeah. Sorry, I was a bit late. I was having some technical difficulties. But my name is Wally. I'm a sixth former. I've been here since second form. I'm a lower school prefect. I'm a theater prefect. I'm one of the captains of the crew team, the boys crew team here, and let's see what else. I'm also one of the heads of the sustainability committee. So.
Hi, I'm Yipsira. Like Wally, I had some technical difficulties, but I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. I'm actually one of the sort of like all school prefects at Groton called the house prefect. I'm a lower school prefect as well, so I'm in the freshman or third form dorms, and then a peer counselor, admissions prefect, and track captain.
Should I continue a bit about, okay. So I actually found out about Groton from a student that was here. Her name is Gloria, but you probably don't know her. I learned about Groton from her coming here, and I looked up to her a lot because we played tennis together in Beijing. Or we didn't play tennis that much, but I looked up to her. Like, we would go to competitions and I would see her play, and I was really in awe of her serve or something. And my parents were also like, "Wow, she's amazing." And then, so when we were in the application process, we were like, "Ron sounds amazing, and I want to go there and play tennis." And that's what I ended up doing. And she was my captain in my freshman year. And now I am a tennis captain. So it's kind of like a full circle moment. And another thing that I think was like, I was in the receiving end of leadership as like a second former or eighth grader and a freshman, was like meetings for Cultural Alliance, or it's like a group on campus that discusses cultural, social issues. And I would always be afraid to go to those meetings and speak my mind. I thought, I was like young, and I maybe my voice didn't matter, but the heads really made me realize that my voice did matter. And now I'm also one of the Cultural Alliance heads with Yipsira. So it's like also, I just feel like you're afraid when you're in like third or second form and you're young. And then over time, you kind of realize that you can take those leadership roles as well.
Wally, do you want to take the next one?
Yeah, sure. So I guess speaking to some of that fear I had, or Amelia was talking about when you're sort of in those younger forms. I started theater at Groton when I was in second form or eighth grade. So I was like very young. And I remember being one of two second formers in the winter musical. We did Cabaret. It was just me and then another second form girl, but otherwise everyone for the most part was in upper school. So that was pretty daunting to come into. Like I remember the first rehearsal I walked in, I wasn't really sure where to sit. So I sat by myself. But then there was this girl, this theater prefect named Josie Fulton, who was just incredibly welcoming and nice. And she went right up to me, introduced herself. I introduced myself. And she had actually been an old friend of my sister's who had graduated the year before. So we sort of talked about that. And then she introduced me to all the other people in the show. And then from there, I thought it was just really cool how I was able to be such close friends with all these people who were seniors as I was in 8th grade. I thought that was really interesting. It was something that I didn't expect going into theater. And I've just loved that aspect about theater at Groton, and also about pretty much every space on campus, from the dorms to the teams. It's just really cool to have these friendships between the different forms. And then when you get to the stage where like I am now as a theater prefect, I feel like, you know, I'm definitely able to take on the responsibility of helping other kids adjust to being with a lot of older kids, like second formers in the show. And it's also just been great to meet kids from a bunch of different ages. So yeah.
Awesome. Yupsira, do you want to take the last one?
Yeah, I would say that actually leadership was a very big part of me someone creating a comfortable space for me. When I first came to Groton, I came during cross country preseason, and I had received emails, you know, we're doing 8 miles on the first day. And I remember emailing the captains like, are we really doing 8 miles? It's like 90 degrees tomorrow. And the captain sort of being like, no, it's going to be okay. And sort of even at the first practice, sort of the captains being like, it's going to be okay, even though it's really hot. We're going to go to Johnson's, which is sort of the local ice cream, and we're going to get through it, you know, sort of like the we eat hills for breakfast attitude. So that was very much a supportive community coming to. Also, I think Groton does a great job of sort of like how open everyone is. Like Wally said, you know, seniors inviting me to have breakfast with them and things like that. Like, you know, when I went upstairs and got my breakfast, I didn't really necessarily know what to say. I was like, oh my gosh. And I remember my captain, Abby Kirk, being like, oh, Yupsira, come over here. Like, you know, and we were having a team breakfast. And even though it's small actions like that, for me personally, like as a sort of having these leadership positions now, it's sort of small actions of kindness that have sort of created a comfortable space for everyone. And even I think for me, like being a track captain, I'm not the fastest one on the team. So me being a track captain wasn't based on a sort of athletic ability as it was sort of creating a comfortable space for the younger students on the team. Like I know I met a lot of the second formers that were on my team last year that I now talk to and sort of come up to me and say like hi and stuff. And so for me, you know, when I was in third form, like saying hi to a senior and them asking me about my day was a big deal. So I think sort of learning that leadership is through small actions of kindness was a really big thing for me.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for, you know, different stories across the board, and you'll find that here. And we're going to start diving into questions. So there is a Q&A function. So if anybody in the chat wants to type those, we will just kind of go through those one by one. First question talks about how is the culture at Groton, like collaborative versus competitive? And I can take this one for right now. I personally, obviously being a pretty selective school, we have a lot of very talented individuals and a lot of different aspects of life. So, you know, you have a lot of good athletes, a lot of good students, a lot of talented musicians, things like that. And although I think some people may consider that stressful or worrying if it breeds a competitive environment, I personally think the opposite. I think it's very uplifting in the sense that it's almost, I think it's always nice seeing people that you know you can count on that are like talented in different aspects. Like for me, if I'm ever like, you know, a little bit confused in a class, I know I have other friends of mine in that class that I can go to and ask for help because I know that they understand it. And, you know, with sports, obviously, you know, you're surrounded with a lot of other individuals that are really talented, but at no point is like, oh, I got a 91 on this test, you got an 88, like, you know, anything like that. Like we don't compare numbers in any, like really with that aspect. That doesn't hold any weight or any merit for us. because I think for us, it's all about really unpacking people's character rather than just like what you can see on the outside, like their numbers, their accomplishments, things like that. So although I think it's competitive for each individual student, it isn't competitive amongst each other. I hope that answers your question. And then Wally, do you want to touch upon the next question, taking on more leadership positions? Can you see that, or do you want me to read it out?
I don't think I'm seeing that.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so it's given Groton as a small student body,
Okay.
does it allow students to take up more leadership positions?
Yeah, I mean, I'd definitely say so. I think one thing that's especially unique about Groton is that every senior is assigned a leadership position. Like everyone becomes a prefect, at least like through the dorms. So everyone takes up a leader position in the dorm. And I just think that's very special because it really speaks to, I think, the relationships that we're able to build throughout Groton and the trust that we're given to be able to handle a bunch of younger kids a lot of the times on our own without any faculty. So that's one thing that I think is really great. And also definitely in terms of the size of Groton, we have a bunch of different clubs and organizations on campus. And with that, and also our relatively smaller size, I think it's definitely easier and possible for your voice to definitely be heard during those club meetings, and for you to sort of try out a bunch of different things without feeling like you're spread too thin or like your voice doesn't matter in those things, because there's still sort of this sense of community and I don't know, familiarity with everyone who's together in each of the different clubs. So through that, you're definitely able to have an impact and eventually work up to an official leader position and leadership position and that sort of club.
Awesome. Next question. What do you look for in students? Sarah, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sorry, can you repeat the question, Huck?
Yeah, sure. What do you look for in students? It's pretty broad, but I feel like you can do. I think that you can do a pretty good job explaining.
I guess for me, like Groton students are very, like, I think, like I said, with the community, I think Groton students are very open. They're very, I think even, I'll just give an example, like whenever I sit down to a dinner, there's always a variety of topics being discussed, from silly things to very serious, like philosophical questions, like what is the meaning of life? So I think there's a variety of different types of people who come from sort of like all different walks of life. So I think what makes Groton so unique is that I think people, feel comfortable so that like they can share their sort of like stories. And I know for me, like recently I gave my chapel talk, which I felt like I never thought I would share that openly about my story. And I think Groton created such a comfortable space for me where I didn't really necessarily feel like I was going to be judged because of where I came from and sort of like the experiences that I encountered. And sort of the thing I realized even after giving my chapel talk was the immense support that I got from the Groton community, which even just sort of just cleared up everything that, this is a space where students can share sort of their stories and it'll be accepted and sort of it'll make the community better, I think.
Next question, Amelia, do you want to take it? Where can I ask for help if I need it?
So there are a lot of ways you can ask for help at Groton. For more academic related things, there are like peer tutors, there are teachers that are available for office hours or just during class, or like during conference periods, which are like 20-minute periods that happen every day. And beyond that, there are also clubs that offer like more academic oriented clubs that offer help, like math club or like classics club, which might offer like help on Latin or Greek. And outside of the classroom, in the dorms, each dorm has a peer counselor, and peer counselors are trained 5th to 6th formers or juniors and seniors that can help like younger students with like adjusting or like any issues or whatever. And there's also a counselors program with licensed psychologists or like people who are there to help you if you have like issues with your mental health or just want to talk, and they're available
as like a free service basically. And beyond that, obviously you can always ask the leaders in the school for help. Like we're talking leadership. So like your captains, if you maybe want to ask them like about how to improve on something in tennis or like in football or something. So I think there are a lot of opportunities to ask for help in many different ways.
Awesome. Callie, do you want to answer the question? How is a new student introduced into the Groton environment?
Yeah. So when you first arrive to Groton, you have a bunch of orientations and stuff with your classmates, and we have pretty small classes. So it's really fun to like get to know each other, and it doesn't take a long time to know where people are from or everyone's names. And then as you get older and you are part of other teams, or even as a young person, a part of teams and clubs, you find people that you have common interests with. And I think that is really helpful in finding like your type of people and not just falling into a group because it's easy or because it's, yeah. And sorry, what was the rest of it? Was it just?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, just generally getting introduced, and like, I think that you, just to add on to that, you will have leaders that kind of look out for you. Like I still remember like showing up for football preseason, I was stressed out because I didn't know anybody, but then you know, your captains and older kids on the team kind of know that. So yeah, I think that they do a pretty good job introducing you.
I'd also like to add just something I think is really special is that every new student is given 2 senior advisors who have like similar interests as you. And so they reach out to you during the summer asking you if you have any questions. And then right when you arrive on campus, they greet you and help move you into your dorm and introduce you to people. And I think that was really cool coming in, just having these 2 willing seniors already ready to sort of be my friends and look out for me just as soon as I got to campus, like the day I checked in, which I think was great.
Yeah. Next question is, my son is an introvert but very driven. Do you create opportunities for such kids that come out of their shell? I can take this one. So I for sure kind of came into Groton a little bit hesitant about kind of being my true self and showing my true colors, because I came in as a new 10th grader, which you know, are pretty few and far between, just because the bulk of our class comes in 9th grade. So I was coming in with a very small handful of kids into a group with already a pretty well-formed grade. And so I was really worried. So I kind of started out not, you know, making sure I didn't talk a lot during meals and had to kind of figure out where and when was appropriate for me. But then eventually I kind of realized that like that didn't really matter to anybody. And it was very welcoming and opening space for any kid, any walk of life. And I think what's so special is that in regards to opportunities that are created, you have so many, there's just so many different pieces to what you can do here. Obviously, you have a bunch of classes you can take. You have all sorts of sports or activities you can participate in, but then even clubs, if there's an interest that you don't see as a club, you can create it if you want to. Like a girl in our form created the backgammon club in 2nd form, and that became a really big hit because she loved playing backgammon. Nobody had a backgammon club. So if you're somebody who considers yourself an introvert, what often happens is you find pieces of Groton's culture that really speak to you and you get attached to. And I think that is one of the most special parts about it, because you just have every opportunity that you could really ask for. And so obviously it's not pushing you to become an extrovert in any sense, but you can continue to be your driven introverted self, but you know, find ways to apply yourself in a community, which I think is really special. And then next question is, what are some ways you've seen people be a leader in the classroom? Wally, do you want to take this one?
Sure. Let's see. I think one thing that stands out is my Spanish class last year, my AP Spanish class. And that was sort of an interesting situation because our Spanish teacher, Senor, his wife was pregnant. So he was teaching us virtually. And that meant that our class was over Zoom like this. And I think, especially in the classroom, sometimes you have a class with a lot of people who are really willing to talk and have a lot of things to say, and then others who aren't so much. So especially on Zoom, I think that effect was sort of amplified. And I remember our class was like a very wide range of people in terms of not talking a lot, and people who really were talking all the time. And so one thing I noted was one student in my class who, was more on the extroverted side. He sort of had noticed that this one person hadn't talked all class, and he sort of just asked him a question like about what we were talking about. And I think that sort of gave a voice to the student who wasn't speaking as much. And then from that, we all found that, they really opened up and had a lot of things to say about the discussion. And I'm not sure if they would have done that necessarily on their own, but I think sort of that extra help from the other student was really, I think, really important in that situation. So that's just like one small thing that I've noticed in classes is leadership in the classroom is just giving a voice to everyone, making sure everyone feels like they're recognized and they're heard, and that even if they have a lot of things to say and they're not initially willing to share that, that's okay. But just making sure that the option for them to share their voice is there. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Wyatt. It was a great answer. Sarah, do you want to talk about next question is, do students who join as second formers have advantages when it comes to leadership positions as compared to ninth graders? Do you want to touch upon that?
Yeah, I can touch upon that, and then I'm gonna pass it off to Callie. She was in second form. I think personally in third form, I think I definitely think that obviously when you come into second form, you sort of get into the community and you see it as an eighth grader. I think that is an advantage in terms of like socially as well. I think you get to make friends and things like that, and you get to experience the community sort of like firsthand as an eighth grader. And I think as an eighth grader, I think it does mean a lot to you, sort of as you're about to go into high school, you are sort of put into this community where a lot of people are really nice. And I'm going to pass it out to Callie.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing about starting second form is just it really just helped me get acclimated to the school and get used to the environment before the rigor that comes with third form. And like Yusira said, it's nice to make new friends and go into third form already kind of knowing people. It's a little reassuring. But when it comes to leadership positions in sixth form, being in second form has nothing to do with it. Like it really all depends on how you were as a person like throughout your time at Groton, and you could have come in fifth form and be elected for positions. It has no bearing, and it just is really helpful for the student to get accustomed to the environment.
Yeah, I think that those two kind of go hand in hand, where I would touch upon just that to reiterate Callie's point that like I came in as a new fourth former, and there weren't any sort of leadership opportunities in sixth form that were squandered to me that I like were unattainable because I wasn't there for 4 or 5 years, which is obviously really nice because it just makes you feel a part of the community a little bit better. Next question: what does the school administration do to promote diversity and inclusion? Amelia, do you wanna touch upon that?
Yeah, sure. So there are a lot of things throughout the year that the school does for like diversity and inclusion or D&I efforts. There's a D&I board and a D&I like head group. I don't know how to what it's called, but that meet regularly to kind of talk about like issues that we want to address on campus, or and these D&I groups run community gatherings, which are dorm by dorm or like 2 dorms together, where you have like a gathering and you kind of use that as a chance to learn more about the other person or talk about heritage or just kind of build more connection within the community. And there are other diversity and inclusion initiatives like Cultural Alliance, which I'm part of, runs Martin Luther King Day, and there are workshops during Martin Luther King Day, and there's a spring diversity and inclusion day. So there are workshops that seniors and juniors tend to run on a variety of different topics. They can be like women in sports, mental health stigma, environmental damage, or something like that. It's like students come together to kind of contribute their own areas of expertise to kind of teach younger students or foster discussion. And there are other clubs on campus that are involved in D&I efforts too, like Groton Feminists, Gender Sexuality Alliance. So there are a lot of opportunities to become leaders in these spots and also to engage with the community.
And to add on, or sorry, if you go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, can I just add on to something? I'm a part of DNI, and something that I really enjoy about how the DNI sort of works is Ms. Sendas, who runs DNI, actually lets the students who are a part of DNI lead everything in terms of making up the questions, sort of guiding the community gatherings. And she makes sure that not only are the people in DNI prepared, but we meet with prefects who are in the dorm who lead the dorm gatherings as well, so that sort of the initiative of diversity inclusion is not led by sort of like school administration and teachers, but sort of students within the student body also. And so I think when students lead those discussions, I think people, especially in the younger forms, are able to contribute their ideas and sort of also just adding their stories and sort of, again, creating that comfortable space where people can talk about sort of their stories.
Yeah, and just to finish, obviously as great as the administration does with things like Cultural Alliance and DNI, I think a lot of it also falls on the shoulders of the students. Very rarely do you see students feel excluded here on campus. Our main highlight of our campus is called the Circle. And one of the things that Mr. Macabella, our headmaster, preaches is this idea that everybody is included in this safe space that we provide here, which I think is really special, because obviously the ideas of talking about what diversity and inclusion means, making sure everybody feels comfortable is a good thing when it comes from teachers, faculty members, and administrators. But when it comes to students, I think that you find everybody is very welcoming to all sorts of different cultures, backgrounds, people, everything. And that, I think, is something that you won't be able to hear or see or read on a website or a blog post or anything like that. That's really just a feeling that you get here, which I think is one of the many pieces that makes our school really special. Next question: how has Groton pushed you out of your comfort zone as a leader? Callie, do you want to talk about this one?
I think that, sorry. Well, like I was saying earlier, when you come in for sports, when you come in as a younger athlete and you're a part of a varsity team, you can get really used to everyone else taking the fall, taking the hits, and you are looking up to them. And even though you're on the team, you're not necessarily you're not taking the fall. And now this year I am leading the teams, and I've kind of had to learn how to lead by example and all that. And there's no one else to look up to anymore. So I think in that way that I'm out of my comfort zone and learning continuously how to lead my teammates. I don't know if anyone wants to add on to that.
No, I think you summed up pretty well. Yeah, that's all. Next question is, we all seem very accomplished. To what extent are average colleagues supported? Thank you for one. It's nice hearing that. However, I think the term average is a little bit, I don't know if that's the word I would use, because everybody here, I think, comes in as a very talented individual, and Groton uses our resources to bolster that a little bit. With that, obviously, it's hard. You can't really put numbers on every part of students' lives. Obviously, you have, GPAs, test scores, but even then, we don't weight classes. We don't weight how many tests you took, things like that. So it's very hard. I would never call oh, that's just an average student right there. That's just an average Groton student. Because I feel like every single student, one of them might be just a crazy good Latin scholar, and the next one might just be so good at violin, and the next one is just a really great ice hockey player and things like that. But I think that for the most part, it's hard. There really aren't any average kids here, because there's so many different pieces to the school, and being average would imply that you're like a part of everything, but just like kind of even throughout everything. But I feel like that's never the case with any student. Obviously, some are great athletes, some are great students, some are great artists, etc. And I think that that's the big thing for me is just like you don't find average, like as like, you know, cliche as it sounds, you don't really find average kids here just because we're all different in our own right. But I think that prefects and teachers, to answer the second part of that question, teachers definitely have close relationships with their students. They're always very welcoming, very open, because our classes are so small. Each teacher can focus and hone in on specific students. And prefects do the same thing. I'm a prefect of a ninth grade dorm, or a freshman third form dorm. And I've found really close relationships with all the kids in here. I just think it's really special. So I think that you find a good mix of all those sorts of things.
I think, sorry, I was just I think something that's noteworthy is Groton really pushes you in terms of academically and also in terms of the opportunities for activities to try a bunch of new things. I think I saw a question sort of about sports, like you do a different sport activity each term. So that allows you to try a bunch of different things. There's also different class requirements when you're, especially when you're in the younger form. So that allows you to sort of explore something that you might not have done otherwise. And so just to follow up on the question about the average student, I think coming into the school, people might not even realize what their true passions are yet. So I think there's a lot of opportunities at Groton for you to come in thinking that you're average at something, but then explore that more and find that you're really passionate about it and really interested by it.
Can I add on a bit?
Absolutely.
Okay, so in my third form year, I took ecology with Dr. Black, who's an amazing ecology and environmental science teacher. And I didn't really, I wasn't like the super passionate about environment type of person. And through that class, I kind of gained that passion. And then after that, I took environmental science this past year. And I'm like now also going to be working with like the Groton Conservation Trust and conservation efforts and invasive species and things. So I've come a long way from not really caring much at all or not knowing much at all about the environment or about environmental sciences to really like wanting that to be my direction in college. So there's high school is like a time for exploration and kind of finding out what you want to do. Yeah.
Awesome. I think we have time for one more question, and these next two are kind of go hand in hand. How did you know that Groton was a school for you, or if there was any reason that you chose Groton specifically? For me, it was really hearing about the community and the passion that everybody shared about it. Any Groton alum you talk to or any student that you talk to here will just rave about the people and the memories and the connections that they form here. And seeing that firsthand with Revisit Day was really special, where it really felt like just everything was authentic, and you saw kids' raw emotions of how much that they cared about each other and about their school and things like that. So for me, I couldn't get away from the fact that because we're such a small school and everybody's so tight knit together that it's really just, it separates it and elevates it from, in my eyes, every other school out there. And yeah, any Callie, Amelia, Sarah, you guys want to add anything or anything like that?
I can add something. I remember my revisit day so distinctly. I just remember that day being so magical. Like, I remember just being so happy to be on campus and sort of just the stories that I was hearing. Like, I remember the day started off with a speech by Mr. Macubella and sort of him talking about why we are here and sort of the change that we're all going to create and how we are lucky to be where we are, and sort of like Huck was talking about, be a part of this community. And I genuinely sort of like, this is going to sound so cheesy, but sort of like felt the magic in the air. Like even just the next day when we heard chapel talks, I remember it was, I think, Montana who was speaking, and she was just talking about how there's so many random moments that have created to her sort of like happiness. And that's because of Groton, like her talking about how she would create random like Latin songs and raps with her roommate and things like that. And that was sort of the experiences that I wanted to experience. And even just, I remember sitting at the lunch table, and I remember I was expecting everyone to be so awkward and sort of being like, oh, why is this girl here or whatever. But I remember like one of the guys started talking about how Whoopi Goldberg doesn't have eyebrows or something like that. And I genuinely just started laughing. And from then on, like, I just felt so sort of at ease, and sort of like my nerves left me. And what Tahuk was saying about how there's sort of a space for everybody at the table. Like, I genuinely felt like this was the place for me, and I was meant to be here.
Awesome. I think we're at time. So Ms. Chico, I'll pass it over to you, but thank you guys so much. We really appreciate you guys listening to us. And if you have any other questions, we could probably be connected to you guys through Ms. Chica, Ms. Walsh, and Mr. Fennell, but thank you guys so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.